Okay, hello class. This is going to be our last lecture for CJUS 417, Domestic Violence. What you guys are going to have left is a project on scenarios. I'll be giving you a group of scenarios for you guys to work through. Just use some of the information that you've learned throughout the class. And then, of course, our final. And the final is cumulative. So you guys are going to want to go back and look at your quizzes, your past tests, things like that. Okay. I wanted to talk today specifically on strangulation and suffocation. Unfortunately, this is a very common thing we see in domestic violence incidences. Uh, it's kind of interesting because when I first started as a cop, um, strangulation or a suffocation was sort of a rare thing. But now one of the big things that's changed is martial arts. Everybody's a cage fighter and everybody's a BJJ expert and all that. Uh, the proper method for using a choke, what we would call a choke in the martial arts, is it's very safe and it's a very deliberate way to do things. And we wouldn't apply these things to folks who aren't willing participants either in a match or practice. And B, those folks that have no training. So this is not something you do to a significant other. It's not funny. It's not cool. And if we catch you using, for example, like a BJJ, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu rear naked choke on your girlfriend or wife or husband, you're going to go to jail. Okay, that's the bottom line. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the things that happens to your body when you either are strangled or choked, suffocated. The difference is in a strangulation, we're actually cutting off the blood flow to your brain. With suffocation, we're cutting off airflow to the brain. They both have very similar effects. I've seen this happen many times. I've seen it happen in progress where I've kicked down a door to a house on a domestic violence call and watched the guy literally in the process of strangling his wife to death. I've had domestic violences occur right in front of me where I've literally seen the victim, their legs shaking, them urinate on themselves. These are all signs of pending death. So again, these aren't funny things. These aren't cool. If we see anybody do this at any time, we need to get the police involved right away. So with strangulation and suffocation, again, strangulation being cutting off the blood flow to the brain, typically by eliminating blood flow through the carotid artery and the jugular veins in the neck, both sides of the neck here. Cutting off airflow. In suffocation, we could depress the windpipe. We could also cover the mouth and nose. And again, both of these things are going to have similar effect, and if they're done long enough, they'll end up killing the victim. Okay. What are some of the neurological effects? You're going to find a victim that has they're very tired, loss of energy. You'll see some behavioral changes. They'll seem almost lethargic, where they are confused and disoriented. You're going to see things like they may have a terrible headache. They may be vomiting. They could urinate themselves, meaning, pee their pants or whatever. That does happen. In absolute worst case scenarios, and this is pretty close to death, they will defecate themselves. So these are signs and symptoms we want to identify. If we see that, we know that this person has been strangled or choked or suffocated, and we need to intervene right away. Again, this isn't a slap, this isn't a punch, this isn't a kick. This is significant. And remember, every time, despite the damage, every time a person is either strangled or choked, that is a felony. 273.5. There is no other charge for that. There's no such thing as a misdemeanor when it comes to these acts. Some of the other physical signs that you'll see with strangulation or suffocation, look at the eyes. The eyes will tend to be the person will often be confused, but you'll see what we call petechiae in the white parts of the eye, the sclera of the eye. These are small burst blood vessels in the white portions of their eye. They could be very minor, or they could be very significant, where literally the entire part of the white part of the eye turns red. It'll look like a demon or something, but that means that some significant back pressure has occurred. And that's really what it is. It's back pressure, and these little capillaries in the eyeballs are blowing up. That's what's happening. So petechial hemorrhaging in the eyeballs is something we look for. Okay. Keep in mind they may have droopy eyelids, almost like they're intoxicated. They may themselves have some vision change. I can't see right now. What happens when you go unconscious as a result of strangulation or suffocation? You may see white dots, you may see black dots, but basically what's happening is your vision is going to start going away. Why? Because you're passing out. If it's held long enough, it's because you're dying. Okay. So again, this is a very, very serious thing. The face itself, look for signs of a struggle. Look for signs of scratches, red marks. Red marks around the neck is an absolute indicator of strangulation or suffocation. The face itself, around the cheeks and such, especially the high upper cheeks, you could as well see petechiae. Again, these red blown blood vessels in the face. So you want to look for that and identify it if you see it. Think about the person's ability to talk. They may actually have difficulty breathing, talking as they're talking to you. It hurts when I talk. Yeah, that's an indicator. That means their windpipe, along with their vocal cords and such, have been affected. Again, you could choke or strangle a person in different ways. We can limit supply of the blood to the brain, or we can limit supply of oxygen to the brain, through breathing and such. But if you depress the windpipe, that could be very, very serious because the windpipe will actually start swelling up, and it could cause an obstructed airway. You'll hear the person is having difficulty breathing and talking and such. Okay. Things like the ears. Look at the ears. Are the ears red? Ask your victim, is there anything going on with your ears? Yeah, I have this steady ringing in my ears. Well, that's bad. Okay, we want to get them medical aid. All of this stuff. The second we suspect strangulation or suffocation, we need to get medical aid to these folks right away, because again, they could potentially be near death, and it's something we want to address right away. As we stated before, with the eyes and the cheeks, the ears as well. The ears can also show signs of petechiae, or that petechial hemorrhaging. So you may see blown blood vessels. If you've ever seen an elderly person and you look at their ears and you see those little red lines around their ears, typically petechiae is very common in elderly folks. They're thin, their skin is thinner. They're more prone to bleeding underneath the skin, especially if they're taking different sorts of blood thinners like warfarin and things like that. But you want to look at the ears, okay? The mouth itself, their tongue could actually be swollen. That's a sign of strangulation. They may actually have petechiae and such around inside their mouth. That's going to be more difficult to see. Okay, and obviously, again, we talked about the neck. Look for redness. Look for scratches. Finger marks. If someone's really clamping down, you may actually have eventual bruising in around the area that they've clamped down at. Breathing changes. Again, we're talking about obstructed airway, obstruction through depression of the windpipe. The thing starts swelling up. It can make it very difficult to breathe. So I always want to talk about this with the class, because this is a kind of a very specific part of domestic violence. Again, I'm seeing it a lot more now than I saw 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's very rare to see choking and strangulations. But now again, I hate to say it, but in a way I blame, I shouldn't blame the martial arts, but I will. You know, a lot of, I've been myself involved in the martial arts and judo since I was a kid, since I was 5 years old. I've been doing it my entire life. And we were trained from little kids to be very, very, very careful. They say, you know, don't do this on anyone else unless you're in the club working out with someone else. Unfortunately, there are some clubs out there and, you know, different places that don't have that same concern. And, you know, oh yeah, try it out on your mom, try it out on your girlfriend or whatever. And it's ridiculous. It's very dangerous. So we don't want to do this to folks if we are practicing our martial arts or whatever, especially not a significant other, unless they are very well trained and you're on the mat and you're working out. Okay. But again, I see a lot of this, you know, guys that have gone and, you know, did their free week trial at, you know, Rex Kwon Do or wherever. And all of a sudden now they think they're a cage fighter and they decide to use this on their significant other. It could be quite dangerous. And the result is you could kill someone. I actually have seen some cases in recent years where guys who claim to be MMA fighters or whatever you want to call them, who have accidentally killed people. You know, guys, especially people with mental illness or people who are under the influence of drugs. This will kill you pretty quick. If you're under the influence of a stimulant or a depressant drug and you apply a choke on them, chances are significantly higher that they're going to die as a result of that. Why? Because their system is already elevated or depressed. And now we're affecting blood flow to the brain or oxygen to the brain through limiting airflow, and their heart stops. Okay, it does happen quite a bit actually. So I can't stress enough how serious this is. If I know not all of you guys are going to go out and be cops, some of you will. I've had the honor of doing recommendations and such for many La Sierra University students. But I know a lot of you guys are going to go on into life, be teachers, be social workers, whatever it may be. I always want you to remember this. If you know someone who may be going through domestic violence, say they show up to work one day and you see petechial hemorrhaging in their eyes, you ask them what happened. Oh, I just have hay fever or something. Start asking more questions. Pay attention. Because generally hay fever isn't going to give you petechial hemorrhaging. Is their voice hoarse? Do they have any red marks on their neck? We want to pay attention to these things. And yeah, your friend's going to get really mad at you when you notify someone on their behalf. But honestly, you may end up saving their life. It's just my 2 cents. I'd rather say something and have a friend mad at me than say nothing and lose that friend. So again, just kind of a extra piece. We're not going to have anything significant on the final exam on this, but something I always like to add. So study up, guys. Make sure you guys are turning in your projects and quizzes and tests. I'm still getting some of them that are late, and I'm having to mark them down pretty significantly, and it's going to hurt. So I want you guys to end strong in the class, please, okay? I think this is going to be the last lecture, like I said, and you'll have your final, and we'll be all done. All right? Okay, thank you.